On September 2nd, 2014, the memorial to the victims of the National Socialist euthanasia killings was opened. This memorial commemorates those lives lost during the Action T4 regime during National Socialist control of Germany. The memorial sits at the edge of Tiergarten in Berlin, as this was the site of Action T4, which held the offices that enabled these acts that forced euthanasia on what they called incurable patients. Action T4 came as a result of social Darwinist movements of the 20th century, which aimed to cleanse the population from mental illnesses and physical ailments. The monument consists of a 24-meter blue glass and was designed by German architects Ursula Wilms and Heinz Hollmann. The German government dedicated 500,000 euros for this project. The blue glass wall is entirely transparent, and the color of the memorial is meant to symbolize the sky and commemorates the victims through their use of glass. The installation is used to show how quick humans can be to systematically exclude others, even when they are clearly visible to them. The memorial contains informational signs, a large electronic tablet with information on the regime, and portraits and stories of about 10 victims, as well as information about the euthanasia program, as well as a bench for visitors to reflect on. In order to make it as accessible as possible, there's also video material available for visitors that are hard of hearing, as well as audio material and information in Braille for visitors that are blind. The memorial aims to memorialize those lives lost during the National Socialist reign to these social cleansing actions. For a long time, those killed in these euthanasia killings of this movement were the forgotten victims of the Nazi genocide. Families often remained reluctant to remember them, and this is perhaps because they could have done more to save them, or because of the stigma that still exists when discussing mental illness and physical handicaps. In July 1933, the German government called for the sterilization of all people who suffered from diseases that were considered hereditary, including mental illness, learning disabilities, physical deformities, epilepsy, blindness, deafness, and severe alcoholism. Tens of thousands of psychiatric patients, including children, were killed through 1945 by starvation or lethal drug overdoses. They were considered biological enemies. This action cost the lives of over 70,000 people in Germany and around 300,000 people across Europe. In 2003, Sigrid Falkenstein learned about an aunt who she was told died young, who was in fact one of the earlier victims of the euthanasia programs. After learning this, Sigrid took up the cause of memorializing these victims and educating the public of their suffering. This is just one example of a family who didn't fully acknowledge and memorialize the loss of the loved one. The memorial represents more than just those lives that were lost. It represents the families that didn't want to remember or those who chose to forget. When thinking about the lives lost during the Holocaust, those lives lost due to the euthanasia killings are rarely discussed. This memorial stands in Berlin as part of several other memorials serving the victims of the Holocaust. In comparison to those other memorials, this memorial is smaller and less discussed. The memorial to the victims of the Nazi euthanasia program is also one of the newest memorials to be erected and opened in 2014. The memorial to homosexuals persecuted under Nazism was opened in 2008, and the memorial to the Sinti and Roma victims of Nazism was opened in 2012. Size-wise, this memorial isn't one of the larger ones and does represent a smaller group of victims of the Holocaust. The memorial exists to educate us of the atrocities that took place and prevent us from doing such in the future. It works to commemorate a forgotten group of the Holocaust and show that every life is valuable.